Hello, and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast number 1670. The topic is Q&A, and the title is How to Get Started in Aesthetic Competitions. So, I use the phrase aesthetic competitions, which is not as common, but I don't like saying bodybuilding competitions because there's more categories than just bodybuilding. So I feel like it's exclusive to the whole sport. So I like aesthetic competitions because that's basically what you're being judged on is your aesthetics, compared to, say, strength competitions, which could be powerlifting or strongman. Aesthetic competitions, you get on stage, you're judged on how you look, and that is the competition. Now, a couple podcasts ago, we did a podcast titled How to Get Started in Powerlifting. It was podcast 1662. After that podcast, I had a request from someone wanting to learn more about aesthetic competitions, to get started in aesthetic competitions. I thought that was wonderful. I always love feedback. So thank you to those who listen to the podcast and then give me comments or send feedback in some way. I really appreciate it. So let's go through some steps. Let's go through some things that you would want to consider if you're thinking about doing an aesthetic competition. The first thing I would think of is trying to decide what category you want to compete in. There are various categories. So for men, there's men's bodybuilding, which is be as big and as lean as you can be. Then there's classic physique and then men's physique. Classic physique is I hate to say the word smaller bodybuilder because they're so freaking massive. So it's more of an aesthetic look. Whereas regular bodybuilding, the people who compete in bodybuilding, they are absolutely insanely massive. And if you do non-drug tested, meaning they can take whatever drugs they want, they're ridiculous. They're huge. They're absolutely ginormous. Now, their midsection tends to thicken out, and that's partly due to the drugs they take, like growth hormone and whatnot, and how often they have to eat, and how heavy of weight loads they use in compound movements. So if they squat really heavy, their abdominal wall and all that's going to thicken out. So they have to be very careful about how heavy they lift. You unfortunately see a lot of them doing really heavy, stiff leg deadlifts as a part, like to build their hamstrings, glutes, and adductors, but they're just thickening their core, so I don't know why they're doing so much of that. But that is just massiveness. Whereas men's classic physique is you would still want a tapered waist. You'd want to be very controlled. Think of, back in the day, Arnold Schwarzenegger's type physique. He was still massive and big, but he had a nice kind of small midsection. Men's physique is you wear swimming trunks, like board shorts, and you still have, those guys still have like 20-inch arms. They're still big, but you're basically just judged on your upper body. You would still want to have a nice lower body. You still have to have good glutes to fill out the shorts. You still have to have good calves. You don't have to have good calves, but it helps. So those are the men's categories. Men's physique, classic physique, and then bodybuilding, in order from like this quote-unquote smallest to the biggest. And then for women, there's bikini, wellness, figure, and physique. They got rid of women's bodybuilding. The idea, it's sexist, you can say it however you want to say it. They didn't want women taking as much drugs and getting as big because it was very masculinizing. I can't say that word right. It made them look like a man. That would be a way of saying it. So they were trying to deprioritize the drug so much, at least the muscular growth-based drugs. There's still tons of diuretics and fat loss drugs that are being abused. But those are the categories for women. Bikini, if you're going to do NPC, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this, but NPC, they have non-drug tested categories. And then if you win in what's called a pro card in the NPC, you become an IFBB pro. And that's kind of the gold standard, like when you read magazines or you think of a professional bodybuilder, those are typically the ones that we would think of. So NPC is kind of the amateur to get to IFBB. In the NPC bikini, it's basically stick with boobs. That's what the look is you would want narrow shoulders, narrow hips, and they often get breast enlargements to help with the aesthetics. So that's essentially the look you would have if you were going for bikini, is very thin, they still have visible muscles, but they're not super shredded. There's not tons of veins everywhere. You're not going to have like where the joints are small, but the muscle bellies are full and rounded. It's all a very sleek line. And that is the NPC bikini. Now, natural competitions where it is drug tested, you're looking at OCB, WMBF, NGA, a bunch of other organizations where there's drug tested. The bikini categories are going to be have more thickness to them than what you would typically see in the NPC. So you're going to see a little bit thicker thighs, a little bit thicker glutes, a little bit of more of a differential between the width of the shoulders versus the width of the hips. So there's a little more leniency for genetic build when it comes to natural competitions for bikini versus NPC for bikini, which again, you can take whatever drugs you want. Then is wellness. That's the next category up. You would still have a sleek upper body, not tons of muscle mass, but the lower body should be thicker. So you'd want thicker, more developed glutes, thicker, more developed thighs. So it's very like lower body dominant type look. And it popularized in the last, say, 5-10 years. Like the culture today is going more for like a thicker lower body look in females. So they created a category for that. The next step up would be figure. And figure is more upper body dominant than lower body. They still have very good, well-developed glutes and thighs, but they should have very pronounced shoulder caps, and they want to have a very kind of shoulder and width to their back. They're not going to have lower lats. They're going to have upper lats and a lot of detail and thickness to their back, but it's a lot of shoulders. I mean, you got to have massive shoulders if you want to do well in physique. And then, figure. And then physique would be like a bodybuilder. Is everything should be, muscular, super shredded. I mean, your veins should have veins. You want to be super lean. So the categories, not only do they go from the lowest amount of muscle mass to the highest amount of muscle mass, they also go from the lowest amount of leanness to the highest amount of leanness. It's a weird way of phrasing it. But bikini athletes, they are going to be lean. They're not going to have, fat on them, but they're not going to be super peeled and shredded and have all the veins. And it's a difference in drugs if you're allowed to take drugs. If you're natural, you're just going to diet an extra couple weeks if you were in the physique compared to the bikini. But there's the divisions in the categories that you would want to be aware of. What I typically tell clients to do is I send them links if they're a one-on-one client, or if you're not a one-on-one client, go look it up on YouTube. And you could type in, say, NPC bikini, NPC figure, NPC wellness, NPC physique. And then just view a couple competitions. They'll have them up and see what body type that you like. I am not a fan, absolutely not a fan, of a coach telling the athlete what body type they should have. So the reason why, for example, my wife has competed in women's physique, but she said that she really would like to do figure. But she was told that she didn't have the body type for figure. And I'm like, nah, bull crap. You have a great body type for figure. We could absolutely do it if you want to do it. It just might take more time. There might be more shaping. There might be more work on the trainer's end to kind of transition and change the body type towards that. Now, there are certain limitations. If somebody does have really wide hips and very narrow shoulders, they're probably not going to do as well in bikini. If you have really wide shoulders but narrow hips, you're probably not going to do as well in wellness. There are certain body types that do favor different categories, but you're going to look like the way you look every single day of the year. You're only going to be on stage once or twice a year, maybe 3 times. If you're a female, you can compete more often a little bit. But you're only going to be on stage a handful of days a year, but you're still going to look the way that you look all the time. I would encourage you to look in a way that makes you happy when you look in the mirror. It is a body type that you like, not necessarily one that you would just compete well in. It is nice to place well in competitions, yes, but it is even better to look in the mirror and like what you see. So I encourage people is I would give them, hey, you probably could do this category, this category, this category. Why don't you look them up? Let me know what you think. That's my way of doing it. But that's the first kind of thing you would want to do if you're looking to get into aesthetic competitions, is to familiarize yourself with the categories and decide which category you would like your body to look like. Then you also want to decide, do you want to take drugs or not take drugs? That's individual choice. I won't really say much beyond that. It's just if you're going to go to a non-drug tested competition and you're not taking drugs, you're taking a knife to a gunfight. You likely will get your butt handed to you, regardless of how well you do in your programming, how hard you work, how disciplined you are, because the other people have aids that you do not have. You can diet your butt off, but if somebody else diets very close to how you dieted in regards to dedication, and then they take extra diuretics, they take extra fat burners, they're going to beat you. It's not because they worked harder, they just had better drugs if you didn't have any drugs. So it's important to pick the category based on the body type you want to have, and then decide, do you want to do drugs, do you not want to do drugs? And if you don't know, that's where it's helpful to talk to a coach who knows that stuff. That way they can kind of give you the pros and cons and all that. But those are kind of the first decisions you have to make. What do you want your body to look like? Will you take drugs or not take drugs? Then the next thing is kind of the time frame that it would take. It depends on what you need to do. If you already have the muscle mass that you need to compete, you just have more body fat, then you can be ready a lot faster. 12, 16, 20 weeks, 24 weeks in most cases. However, if you don't have the muscle tissue developed yet, you are going to have to go through a process of building muscle and then dieting, or just competing with a low amount of muscle mass to get the experience, know that you're not going to place well, and then continuing to build after that show into maybe doing a second show where you expect to place better because now you had a long enough time to build muscle tissue. That's kind of the big thing. Is if you don't have the muscle tissue built up yet, then you're looking at a time frame of, say, 6 to 12 months before you can compete. If you don't want to do like a competition first just to fill it out. If you actually want to play super duper well, whether you do a first competition or not, you're looking at 6 months to 12 months if you have to build muscle tissue. If you already have the muscle tissue developed, you just have to get leaner, then that could be as short as 3, 4, 5, 6 months, something in there. Then the next thing we look at is the nutrition and training. The nutrition, you have to be, it will likely be the most disciplined that you have ever been in your nutrition in your entire life. When you get down to the nitty-gritty details, if you want to be your best, there really can't be mistakes. So we're talking about dieting for 12, 16 weeks where you don't miss a meal. You don't miss anything. Like you don't miss calories, you don't miss protein, you don't miss meals. Everything is perfect. Now, is everybody perfect? No, that's not human. You're going to make 1 or 2 mistakes, but I'm literally talking 1 or 2 mistakes in 12 weeks. So the final, 12 weeks before a competition, you don't want to accept any mistakes. You can't control everything, but of what's within your control, you should be 100%. Outside of that 12 weeks, then yes, you're going to make some mistakes. You're going to mess some stuff up here and there. So let's say I like using units of 14 days. If you've been listening to the podcast at any length, you hear me mention that. But in 14 days, if I can get 10 out of 14 days correct, where I hit my calories, my protein, meal timing, if I have extra markers like sugar content, if I can hit my 10 out of 14 days right, that is good for most people to make most goals. Now, if I can get to 11 out of 14, 12 out of 14, that's where you want to live if you want to be an aesthetic competitor in the quote-unquote off-season, outside of the final 12 weeks. You want to be at 12 out of 14. Maybe one day a week you might miss a little bit of your numbers, but the rest of the time you're pretty on point. So that's the dedication level, and you should have calories counted, protein, grams of protein, and then meal timing should be relatively consistent. And we talk about breaking our calories and protein down into thirds. So every 5 to 6 hours of the day is a third of the day that you're awake, and you should have that be consistent every time. And then controlling sugar content. For most people, if they control those elements, they're going to do fine. They're going to do really well. No other elements need to be really factored in. Then it comes down to coach's choice of choosing the exact foods that are going to match your digestion rate needs. And I take care of all that stuff as we get closer to competitions for my clients. Then when it comes to training, you're looking at being active probably 6 out of 7 days a week. And whether that's just going for some walks or doing some mobility work, you're going to be active and accountable to being active 6 out of 7 days. Maybe in the gym 4 days, 5 days, but you're going to be doing something intentional that's exercise focused for 6 out of 7 days. Now that can be a blend of weight training, it can be a blend of cardiovascular training. I typically do not have people do a lot of cardio. It's a waste of time when you could be doing muscle manipulation, muscle change, as well as burning the calories. So I've had people compete, earn pro cards, never spent more than 20 minutes at a time doing cardio. You do not need to do an hour of fasted cardio in the morning. That's unnecessary. That stuff is archaic. You don't need to do that anymore. And it's detrimental to the rebound effect after the competition. So I've helped people get on stage, look great, get pro cards, never spent more than 20 minutes doing cardio. The next thing, sorry if this is a lot, I'm trying to get everything in here, is, okay, now that we know what category we want to be in, we have an idea of the time frame that it'll take, and we have our training and nutrition kind of in place. The next thing you would start to look at is posing and stage presence. Different categories have different styles of posing, so you want to make sure that you are familiarize yourself with the posing routine for the category you're in, and then your coach should help you with posing. So I do posing for my clients. I have actually done all the posing routines in high heels. Yes, I was able to find a pair of high heels that match my feet, and I practiced it, so I know it all. So I help all my clients with nutrition, training, posing, makeup, jewelry, everything. Like, I'm one-stop shop because I like being there to help people. I don't like letting go of somebody else coming in and maybe not giving as much attention to my person. So I don't like, for example, if they go to a posing class and it's one coach helping 20 people, that's just not going to be good. You're not going to get good attention. It's good for just basic familiarization of the posing, but it's helpful to get that one-on-one attention. So my wife and I, on our website, we actually have a service where we do posing choreography. You can go to our website and click on that. My wife has competed in 2 competitions. She actually won first overall, and her posing is amazing. She has a 26 years of competition dancing background, amazing dancing. So we actually help to write the choreography for our clients when they compete. So we help them pick a song if they don't have a song already, or we help them pose a song that they like. Posing that matches their, like I tell my wife, say, hey, we want to show this muscle, not show this muscle. This is a great angle. This is not a great angle. And then she puts together the routine and has like nice, beautiful flow to it. It's really fun. Love getting to do stuff with Meredith. She's amazing, absolutely amazing. So it's fun getting to do that together and being able to help people. So if you want to learn more about that, you can go to our website, click on posing choreography, and read more about that service. But that's kind of the next step, is you want to start practicing posing and being familiar with the stances that you're going to need, the flow, the feel. You're going to feel ridiculous how much you have to smile. You just have to get used to that. There's a lot of components, but that would be kind of the next step of what to look at. Then, as you get closer to the competition, you have to look at kind of contest preparation. And this is fine-tuning skin care, so that way the tanning that you have to do actually looks nice and even on the skin. Hair care, makeup services, hair services, all that stuff to make sure all that is correct. But that is kind of done more so once you have a show date picked. You then start to pick out like your posing suit and those components. That's more so once you know your time frame, the category you're going to be in, you have an idea of like the programming you already want to do. So your next steps would be the posing, the presentation, and the preparation. And then the next step, the last step, is pretty much kind of registering for the competition, making sure you pay your money, make sure you got your spot, and getting a hotel room if you need to, all that kind of stuff. So those are kind of the steps or the process in which you would take to get into aesthetic competitions. You want to find out the category, the division that you want to compete in. Do you want to take drugs or not take drugs? And then find the organizations that are local to you that have shows, and then based on the time frame that you think you can compete in, whether you have muscle tissue or not have muscle tissue enough yet, you would pick a show date and an organization that matches all of the above. You get your training and nutrition program that matches the time frame and the category that you want to compete in, the type of division. And then from there, you start learning about posing and preparation and all that stuff. I really would never do this without a coach. I know I am a coach, so it sounds like I'm selling my service. Hire anyone. I don't even care if you hire me. But it is so overwhelming to go through all of this on your own, and you just don't need to. You flat out don't need to. There are people who do this for a living. They can tell you how to just all the stuff you need to reduce anxiety, to reduce uncertainty, and just make sure that if you're going to do it, it's going to be the best experience it can be, and that you have the most fun and the most enjoyment throughout the process. So I really, really, really would encourage you to get a coach to help you through the process if you are thinking of competing. Cool. Okay, so that's everything. Hopefully that was helpful. If anybody has any follow-up questions, reach out or email us brutalirongym@gmail.com. If you're looking for programming, we do have our live monthly programming service. We have a female shape development program, and we have a pure bodybuilding program. The female shape development is mostly for females. The pure bodybuilding is still for females as well. The female shape development is going to be more like wellness focused, where it's going to be a lot of lower body work, a lot of core strengthening but not thickening, and upper body development but not to the extent of the lower body. So it's going to be more of the traditional type, like current culture idea of what female shape is. And then the pure bodybuilding is more of a balanced top and bottom overall look. If you're interested in the service but you're not sure which program to get, just email me, brutalirongym@gmail.com, and I'll help you decide which one is best for you. But that service, you get brand new programming every 4 weeks. Every exercise has video tutorials, and you get unlimited Q&A. You can ask me absolutely anything you want. It's only $50 a month. So you can ask me all your competition prep questions for $50 a month, get personalized excellent answers. Then we also have our one-on-one coaching service, which everything's personalized, and that's definitely the one I'd recommend if you can afford it. It's $200 a month, but it's well worth it, I promise. So that's the services that we offer that could help you. Cool. Well, if you like our podcast, please share it. The more people that share the podcast, the more people can help. And that's the whole point of the podcast, just to help as many people as we can. Thank you to those who donate to support the podcast. It does have a high hosting cost on all the different platforms that we want to be available on. So I do appreciate the donations as they help cover some of that cost. You can donate on our website, www.brutalirongym.com. If you like the information we share in our podcast, you can find more from us on our social media channels. You can find us and please follow us under the name Brutal Iron Gym on Instagram and YouTube. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.